Ross on Sactown Sports 1140.
Getting carried away, Alan, to say, hey, we've got a breath of fresh air now surrounding the Kings. They're in New Orleans tonight. I don't know if you saw pictures of their Super Bowl party, but looks like we know now the direction in which they're headed. It's going to be a while before they are a serious contender for anything of significance, but now we know where they're going, and they're led by these fresh-faced youngsters, and everything's back on track.
I mean, what is the complaint now, right? What would the complaint be right now in this very moment?
That the team is terrible and they're 12-42.
But we already understand that, right? The complaints earlier.
This is tonight. If they lose tonight, pardon me, but as you probably know, if they lose tonight, that's the all-time Sac era longest losing streak.
Right. But I'm saying no more 36 minutes for Russ, no more 36 minutes for DeMar. They're playing who they have, and they're getting the young guys a lot of burn. So
Russ did play 32 minutes Saturday.
He snuck in over 30, huh?
31-56.
Doug loves
DeMar,
him.
29-38.
You know, if you're a coach and your team is bad, you got to think, man, I could just leave Russ out there all game long. He's just going to go. And that's the position where they don't really have a young guy to build up. Right? I don't know. I mean, we saw Daquan Plowden. Maybe we see Isaiah Stevens at some point because why not? But we haven't seen him yet. But, yeah, the DeMar thing even feels like when DeMar's playing, he's at 17.5 today, prop talk. I just don't think he's trying to do that at this point. Levine or no Levine, it's not about somebody else taking shots from him. That's just doesn't seem to be his focus. I don't know. He turns it on and off a little bit, and they all are on the same page. So, yeah, the complaint, relatively speaking, to what this team is, everything is essentially out in the open, whether we hear from ownership or not. So, just get through the season. This is where they need to be, and they're doing it the way you're supposed to do it.
You have to, I think, sell tickets to some people that are still on the fence. Some of the people that are season ticket holders, they don't follow it as closely. Like we talk about it every day. I get the sense some season ticket holders, it's fun. They don't care that much. Most do, but some don't care about the ins and outs. I get the sense that some, based on what we're hearing from some callers, are like, wait a minute. This team's terrible, and they intend to be terrible for a while?
Yes.
Whoa, I didn't sign up for that.
Right. And I was going kind of back and forth with Jill Adge, who is huge Kings fan. And it's funny because the platforms that we reach out to people on they also represent different types of fans, because we were talking with Sarah and, a lot of people chimed in and felt like Sarah. Now, on social media, I would say that Kings Twitter, if you will, much more, I guess, in the weeds. So I posted something. I said, man, this is kind of a weird viewing experience, and Kings fans might be a little bit confused because it was before they were doing the pure, all right, Russ, DeMar, you're not really, kind of part of the action here. But then they got pulled or something like that. And Jill Adge and kind of King's Twitter, no, this is perfect. This is great. This is what we want. And I tried to explain to them, well, we get calls saying the opposite, right? There are people that are really in the weeds on this stuff that understand the larger view. But there's some people that are thinking, I paid tickets. Where is the bonus? Zach LaVine is making $40 million. Where are these guys? But, hey, it's out in the open now, so you go. You should know what you're signing up for. But to your point, Whitey, some people just aren't, as locked in on all of it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what was really encouraging about Saturday. Somebody who has, kind of done this stuff like for a living, not what we do, but actually the basketball stuff, was telling me that if you have two teams that are tanking, we've had games like tonight. I don't know. You could argue New Orleans is still trying to win. But when you have two teams that are tanking, and we've seen that, it's almost like, we used the term last week, it's almost like a summer league game in a way.
Yeah.
And so anything that happens in that game, you have to consider that when you're evaluating performances. But Saturday night, the Cavs they're a good team, and they were trying to win that game.
Yeah.
So all the numbers that the youngsters put up, those are legit numbers.
Those were legit numbers.
Yeah.
But to your point, I also think it's confusing for everyone involved. I think the Cavs, and we saw the same thing with the Clippers a little bit, two teams involved in a huge trade as well. But I think the Cavs just didn't really know what to make of the Kings, right? I mean, They're clearly turned off thinking we can just roll the ball and figure it out. And technically they did. But they're playing. DeMar and Russ are coming out. They're kind of deferring. Nick Clifford's playing well. Then they come back in, and Cavs are probably thinking, I don't really know what to do with this.
Mm-hmm. Man, the Kings are a bad team defensively. They shot 51%, 16-37 on threes, and they lose by 6. They gave up 39 in the fourth quarter. They score 30 in the fourth quarter and give up 39.
Yeah. I mean, James Harden alone, I think he had, 2 points in the first half, and he got hot in that second quarter. Is that – we talk so much about offense, right? But is that the one thing that maybe worries you about the youngsters? And I know they're still getting used to it, but we always focus on scoring. Neek was supposed to be a pretty lockdown defender, and I want to pay more attention to it as he's getting more consistent time. But, I mean, Devin Carter is a better defender than Neek. Neek is much better offensively, but, when you look at the young guys, you got Devin defensively and you have Cardwell. That's kind of it.
Yeah. Look at it this way. We know that when they brought in DeAndre Hunter, and again, he's out tonight with his eye injury, Scott Perry talked about how much he would help the team defensively. He's not a great defender, but this team is so challenged defensively that he probably will help a great deal.
Yes.
Even though he's not that great.
Right.
But they don't have anybody other than, Keegan, who's out right now. They don't have enough of that type of guy.
Yeah.
Other teams have him coming out of their ears, and that's why they're in such demand. Everybody wants those 3-and-D wings, and the Kings, they're 3-and-D. Well, they're starting wings. They're starting forwards in the last game. DeMar DeRozan and Daquan Plowden. Good for both those guys. But if those are your starting forwards, you're in trouble before they even tip it off, Alan.
Yeah.
If you're really thinking about winning a game.
Right, which I don't know.
Yeah.
And honest and right
So I
here,
guess to answer your question, yeah, it's a concern, but if you put together an actual legitimate NBA roster, you can't help but be a little better in those areas.
yeah, they're giving Daquan 6'4", actually. I thought he was, that means Neek is technically taller than him. So, yeah, not as much size as I thought.
Yeah.
He's a straight
Yeah.
up shooting guard. He's a shooting guard.
Mhm.
And they're playing him at the 3? They're playing him at the 3
Yeah.
right now. So that's not going to be that's good for the tank. I'll put it to you like that.
Yeah, they basically started 4 guards and Maxime Reynaud in the last game. You can say all you want about it.
You're
DeMar,
done. Yeah, you're done
you can
calling
slide him to the
DeMar.
4.
You can. You just might.
You can
end
call
up-
him now,
no,
but he's just not.
No, Whitey, you can. You just might end up with 12 wins. That's why you can.
And that's not a knock on DeMar.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a shooting guard back in the day.
Dylan Cardwell, we haven't talked enough about him. What did you think of his? I know the numbers were great, but what did he do? I think it was on a dunk or a putback, and he did the really.
Yeah.
Alan, there was a time when if a rookie did that, he wouldn't make it back down the floor.
Right. I do wonder, where Doug is going to decide the line is, if there even is a line. I think it's hard to have a line this season because I think the focus for Doug is for this thing to still feel important, for this to still feel like NBA level basketball. I think you made up a good point with the summer league thing, and you got Dylan, and we get it. Everybody likes it. I know Dylan's a fan favorite, but yeah, there does get to a point where I don't want to use the word Bush League, but Doug has to make sure that this doesn't get a little too Bush League. I said something to you off the air about, Russ and the beginning of the game, and everyone's just kind of juiced up to go out there and lose. I think among other things, one of Doug's focuses now is, hey, we're going to have fun, but we don't want this losing thing to, kind of just seep into our bloodstream, and we don't want this to get a little Bush Leaguey.
I'll tell you what, I don't know that we're ever going to know the real story with Keon. And I know that Brendan did an interview with him, and I know my working theory of late had been, look, at some point, the Kings got the word that he wasn't going to stay, and so they felt like, all right, we're not going to play him because he's not going to stick around, so they had to trade him. And talking to Brendan and looking at it more closely, I don't know that was it, Alan, but I just don't know what it was. There's, you follow a thread of, well, he didn't play under this guy, maybe because of that, and you just end up at a question mark, no matter which thread you follow. I don't know that we're ever going to know exactly why he was not in their plans here.
So after speaking with Brendan, which I did too, right? We got some things on the record, off the record. Brendan is outstanding at his job. But you're telling me that now that you've spoken with Brendan, you are changing how you feel?
Kind
or
of
you
back
want
to square one where I
Okay.
I'm not so sure of that. I was very confident.
You
but
were?
Yeah.
Did you got sources?
Well, just some of the things Brendan said
Mm-hmm.
about his conversation. There's no evidence of that. It still could be that, but I don't know if we're ever going to know.
Right.
I don't mean to dredge this all up, but now sounds like a good time now that he's out, he comes back, he's gone. It's a good time to say, I just don't know if we're ever going to know what the real story was.
No, I mean, my working theory was that they just didn't think he had that high of a ceiling and felt – I mean, you know what's funny? Did you see what Daryl Morey said? And I thought it was pretty messed up about our Sac native, Jared McCain. Daryl Morey said, I felt like we sold high on Jared McCain. And he said that, just in an interview or a press availability. And then somebody asked Jared McCain about it. And what the heck is Jared McCain supposed to say to that? He was literally speechless. And they ended the interview after that, the availability. The PR person said, okay, no more questions. Because Jared McCain said, I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say. I bring all that up because I feel like Scott Perry is not Daryl Morey. And, that was just kind of a jerk move to say that out loud.
Yeah.
But I think Scott Perry felt like they were trying to sell high on Keon, but it didn't end up happening that way. But I think they thought they were selling high on Keon, and they felt like he was pretty darn close to his ceiling.
We are taking you up to game night, bottom of the hour. Right now,